Well, good evening, everybody. It's February 22nd, and yeah, let's talk about the 2022 Ski-doo release. Yeah, so a lot of surprising things, actually. I was not expecting much. I thought, they might kind of round out some model lines a bit, throw some new graphics on it, and I thought maybe they'd turn the boost up on the 900T. And pretty much thought that was it. Maybe expand the RAS X and our Motion X suspensions, have that trickle down a bit. And I figured that would be it because I mean sleds are selling so bloody well, that why mess with a good thing, right? But hey, pleasantly surprised, like lots of interesting stuff. I'm just gonna preface this with um, this is all just my opinion. Um, some of the things I talk about are objective, but most of it is all just based on, my experience and my, like, the way I ride and the way I approach sledding and the way I think about marketing and products and also my geographical location and that I'm rural and like away from things. So that plays a huge part into how I look at a sled and how I look at a product line, and as well as like prices. Like I'm not a rich person, and I can't afford to trade in every year. So what a sled brings for value plays into what I have to say as well. Uh, and slight bias. Like I'm not gonna lie, I like Skidoo and BRP probably the most out of all the brands, but I do really like Polaris as well, and they've got some cool things. And yeah, and admittedly, Arctic Cat and Yamaha don't have much that gets me excited about anything. And I hope they do bring something out in the future here, that makes me excited about their products, but I don't really particularly care about what they have. I don't find anything appealing at all that they have. So yeah, that's just me, and I'm being very honest about like my my preconceptions and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, let's get into it. I'm gonna probably talk about the biggest news that kind of came out of left field, but was a long time coming. Was the release of Lynx to the North American market. So that is extremely significant, um, in that it should have been done 10 years ago, honestly. And it looks like they're sort of just testing the waters and releasing, the Rave or the Rave, whatever you want to call it, and the Boondocker. So they're kind of hardcore, sort of call it a trail sled, but what we would think is a trail sled, but it's not really. It's more like a cross country type of sled. And then their Boondocker, which is kind of not quite a summit, but more than a backcountry. So it's kind of a mix between the summit and the backcountry, and also has some cross country elements to it as well. So that's really neat. They come at a bloody price premium though. Like you're gonna pay a pretty penny for those. Um, I mean, I'm not going to go over every little single thing on them, but they're definitely like they have some major high spec shocks on them, 46 millimeter shocks with like all the bells and whistles and adjustments, and they're about as close to a racing style sled as you're probably going to get. Um, and made for like hard cross country, non groom trails, that type of thing. So the only thing that I'm fearing with Lynx, and I hope it doesn't come to this, is that they better. That's difficult. Just the way people are wired, right? Um, I think some people are going to look at the Lynx, look at it's different, and therefore has to be better than buying just a Skidoo. So I think that's going to influence people's buying decisions in a bad way, because I think some people are going to end up owning a Lynx that should really not own one, because they think it's better and elite and hardcore, and they think of themselves as being, well, I'm a hardcore rider, and I want my friends to think I'm hardcore, so I'm going to go buy this hardcore sled, and then end up hating it because it's way too stiff, or it doesn't, like the rear suspension is not set up the way that they want or whatever. So I just hope that people are honest with themselves about what they really want in a sled, and don't overbuy, because if you overbuy and end up buying a Lynx, and you only need something like an X package or a base spec shocks for how you ride on groomed trails, like you're just throwing money out the door or flushing it down the toilet for nothing. And yeah, so just I hope they market them good, and appropriately, and target the appropriate buyers, and somehow have a marketing campaign that gets these points across. Because I don't want to see what happened to the XRS, and it looks like they're finally correcting that problem too this year. It looks like the XRS sleds have actually a lot beefier shocks and whatnot than kind of like more like the 2010s had. Like up to 2010, the XRS was like a hardcore, almost race replica, but just slightly toned down to make it tolerable on the trail. And I mean slightly toned down, with the trail engine rather than the race sled engine. So, but then people, like I said, people complained it was too stiff, it rode too hard, so they softened it up. Up until like last year, the XRS is just a couch trail sled. It's nothing crazy. You have to send your shock still to get revalved for it to have any type of big bump absorption and stuff like that. So I'm glad to see that that's moving the other direction, and I hope people like I will fully admit that I am not, I'm not the type of person that would need an XRS. Like I have an X package in the Summit that I have, and it is 100% perfect. I can't outride my shocks with the way I ride, so that's fine. I would never buy a Lynx, because again, it'd just be me wasting money to like impress people. The whole spending money I don't have to buy things I don't need to impress people I don't like. So yeah, so anyway, but really cool. I hope they bring some of the more utility lineup out, because I think they got some really unique utility type sleds that would probably do quite well here. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Lynx. It's very, very cool that they're here. I think it's a really good move. Next thing, I think I'll just start from the bottom. Like I don't like to say the bottom of the lineup, but from the value sleds up to the hyper sleds. So this year, the 600 EFI was definitely a major hit. That was just an amazing engine. Didn't really have many problems. There was a few things where the fuel filter that you can see, like the inline fuel filter, had some issues where it would crack. But I think that's a pretty easy fix on some sleds, so just keep an eye on that if you have one. But definitely an overachieving, very surprisingly capable engine for the money that you are spending. It's one hell of a sled, and they've pretty much kept that status quo for this year. So those are great sleds, and a whole bunch of people around here have them and just love them. And some people coming off 600Rs are actually getting those sleds and are quite happy with them, and they're getting fairly good gas mileage. Like I think some of the best I see is 18 miles per gallon, but for an EFI, that's pretty damn good. So yeah, great sled all around. That lineup's pretty much not changed very much. So all the same sleds from 2021 are now offered in 2022. Going up the line, I think the next cool thing is that they offered RAS X and R Motion X to pretty much most of the E-Tech I think most or all of the E-Tech variants that had R Motion and RAS have that now, which is really good. I have not had a chance to ride one yet, but from what I hear, it's really solved probably 80 to 90% of the handling issues that I know I had with the Gen 4. I still, to this day, do not like the Gen 4 chassis. I've tried more this winter and I just don't, does not sit right with me. But that's just me. And, it's your ass that has to sit in the seat. And if it agrees with you, then hey, great. So the next one is the competition package, like the XRS competition package, and I think that's going to be the biggest like hit with people that you know maybe want a Lynx sled but still want a Ski-doo with R Motion and all that kind of stuff, because that looks like it's really well made with nice shocks and like good valving and kind of bare bones of what you need, and the price looks, for what you get, the price looks really good. So that's going to be, I think, a big hit for spring order. It'll be a good like option package, definitely. So expect to see a bunch of those ripping around. And it's kind of like what the Iron Dog sleds were almost. So that was a very nice package for the XS chassis. So this is probably going to be a big hit, I think, for people that want that type of sled. Um, the next the next things are the summit, and I think the biggest thing there is they went, or at least for me, the biggest thing, they went to like one of the variants has a 34-inch ski stance, which I think is a really good move as long as they're not going to panel out on a side hill type thing or doing a powder turn. But I think that's a really good move for the mountain crowd, and you're getting into like tundra ski stance, which like in the bush and in the deep snow, those things are like a scalpel. So that's a good move for the summit crowd, and I think that little change is going to be a big deal. Um, the next the next stuff gets a bit more complicated when we're talking about the four-stroke engines. The 900 turbo, they did some weird stuff there, and it's a bit confusing. So now they've got a 130 horsepower 900 turbo, and it looks like it's the 900T engine with the boost dialed back and no intercooler. So you're losing a bit of like not compressor efficiency, but intake efficiency there, and lower boost levels. So you may not really need the intercooler, and it's only 130 horsepower, but that fills a nice need, I think. And then it looks like in the utility sleds, they kept the 150, the 150 horsepower turbo that we all know. But they didn't put it in the other sleds, which I don't get that. I think they're trying to kind of push trail riders into the 180, the 180 horsepower engine. And I kind of figured that's what they were going to do, like turn the boost up on that, because the same engine variant already has like a high level of horsepower. And I think it was smart to kind of incrementally do that. So those are going to be pretty good performing engines. I mean, the 900T is a pretty nice motor. The only thing that freaks me out about it, and why I would never own one, is that in normal operation, that friggin' turbo is glowing cherry red all the time. And like, I don't know, man, that just freaks me out. A lot of red hot parts near like lots of flammable things. But I haven't heard of many burning up at all, so it must work. Yeah, and then the expedition lineup has been like really well rounded out. So if like they're popular sleds up where I am, the expeditions are just a good do it all, work, play, utility, deep snow, bus trail, go ice fishing. Like they're just great do it all sleds. Very popular up here, very popular with the camp crowd. and they sell like crazy. So it's nice to see them give like pretty much no matter what you want in an expedition, there's something to fit you. So that's really good, and a lot of options like within each package. So that's great. I'm glad to see that the utility crowd and that sport utility crowd being really focused on, because if you look globally, I think that's their, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the biggest market actually. So it makes sense that they do that. The next thing is the Mach Z. Not what I wanted to see in a Mach Z. I still think that they should have had a triple two-stroke E-Tech, motor, a 900 or 1,000 cc's, and that would have been like just amazing. But like, I get it as a company. Why throw all that development money and R&D into something that may not even sell? And I think the way, like when I pull back and say, okay, I'm not going to think as the guy who just wants a triple and likes triples. I'm going to pull back and say, like, if I was running a company, what would I do? And I would have done exactly what they did: is turn the boost up, get this one like specialized variant sled, done with the launch control and the goofy automatic shocks, and like put it as a 1 year release and see how it goes. And if it doesn't sell, well, okay, whatever. But if it does sell, then great, you've done your, like, the R&D's doing itself now. And um, if it does sell, then you're gonna have a good business case to actually expand that lineup, or have the technology trickle down. Like if you're promising a 1 year release only of the Mach Z, then I would be angry if I bought one and then they release it again in 2023. So I think what they should do is, if it's really popular, they should just expand that lineup. So have an MXZ 180T with the launch control and the automatic, active suspension. And that way it's like there's still only 1 year of the Mach, but you're essentially getting the same sled in different colors under a different line, and that'll kind of preserve that collector status. But I mean, I don't know what they're planning to do there, but the methodology is sound, I think, with how they did that. And it's going to be a crazy, like, I think it'd be crazy to try one. I 100% would never own one. It's just, this is where the geographical and like price stuff gets into it. The price is crazy. Like, I would never pay that much for a bloody sled. That's like $25,000, even more when it's all said and done, with taxes and freight and all that. Like, ridiculous. And then, like, there's so much tech on it now that it's almost like a car. It's almost like living in the city and having to go to the car dealer for everything that goes wrong with your car. Well, I live rurally. I can't just bring my sled in and plug it into a computer and run codes on it and have the dealer fix it. If the sled goes down, so if an active suspension module breaks or whatever, it's a 2 hour ride and maybe a week wait for parts, and then another 2 hour ride to go pick it up. So I lose like, a week or two of riding, which is like significant. And yeah, and then you've paid 20 some thousand to have a short season. I don't see the point. And I love technology, and I love to see like technology of necessity in snowmobiles. And I'm just going to start a bit of a, not like a rant, but like I don't know, an opinion about, when the environmental pressure was on to clean up the power sports industry, a lot of people thought, oh, we're going to lose our industry. They're not going to make snowmobiles anymore. Like they want us to clean up, but we can't. Well, like, necessity is the mother of invention, and when forced into a corner, in like forced to meet standards, the manufacturers were put in a pressure position where they had no choice but to innovate. It was innovate or you don't survive. So that's where E-Tech came from. And and E-Tech is an extremely, like, it's saved two strokes, 100% saved two strokes. So I'm good with technology like that. Like E-Tech is proven to be like dead nuts reliable, regardless of its complexity. I trust it. Um, and I would like to see uh, like technology start to be leveraged for people in my situation. Like I don't mind having Bluetooth on a sled, but what I want it for is not for music or for mapping. It's to be able to Bluetooth into the computer and check all the error codes and run routine maintenance items like syncing a TPS or doing something really simple like that. If I have to ever take a throttle body off, or doing the rave valve syncing, being able to get those, what I would call like basic level engine computer functionality, be able to have that user serviceable, and the deeper stuff, like, okay, fine, keep it for the bud system, but it'd be nice to have stuff like that where somebody like me can actually perform some maintenance, not have to drive 2-3 hours to a dealership, because it just doesn't make sense for me to do that. But I think the industry is moving too much into, they assume you're right close to your dealer and that you can just pop in there and get your sled taken care of. And it's just not the case for like lots of us. So that's why I tend to shy away from the hyper new technology and sleds now that have like suspension computers and all these bloody sensors and all this other crap that can just, I'm going like, wow, what are the 15 ways that can like ruin your day when you're 100 clicks or 100 miles from civilization. So yeah, that's just my I don't know, my opinion on that. I mean, the Mach's a great, it's going to be a nice sled. There are people that are going to buy it and people that are going to like love it and it's going to suit them really well. I am just 100% not one of them. And yeah, and I'm always gonna, I don't, my track record is I don't know if I'm ever going to spring order a new sled. If I do, it would be one of the like value focused or utility type sleds with like less bells and whistles and stuff on it. And yeah, so anyway, I think Ski-doo, the release is really it's really exciting, and I 100% knew there would not be a new chassis. I don't understand why people kept insisting that they're going to have a G5 or even a plastics change like the XP to XS. Like, there's not much you can do with the G4. I mean, I don't understand why. I don't get why people want new plastics to have the same sled, same suspension, same everything, but new plastics in a slightly changed rider position. With the way the paradigm is, it's not like a Polaris Matrix where the axis was very neutral and the Polaris Matrix is now close to where a G4 is. Like, what do you want to do with the G4? Push the position even more forward? That's going to be so off balance. It's not even going to be funny. And it's already like thin towards the front of the seat. Like, you could make it a bit thinner, but I mean, do you want to go, as a company, are you going to go through the whole like tooling line change just to make your sled look different? That doesn't make any sense. Um, I don't really think we have much. There's not a lot of, well, okay, not a lot of, but there is no low hanging fruit when it comes to chassis design anymore. It's like, this is about the limit of a pyramidal chassis as we know it. And there's going to have to be some big, huge paradigm shift in chassis layout, similar to a sit down sled to a rev style, like a stand up sled or a rider forward sled, to really push the industry much more. I mean, I think now you'll see driveline improvements and different and more exotic materials being used for like lighter but stronger sleds and things like that. So, different types of like propulsion systems, electric sleds. You will see electric sleds very soon. And for those of you who are like poo-pooing that, um, I'm sorry, even a mediocre electric motor can dust the best internal combustion engine, like no holds barred, not even a contest. So expect to see that technology, and I'd say within the next 4 years, um, start to trickle down. And battery tech's going to be like, it's already on this like very uphill climb where battery density is still going up, which is really exciting. And having batteries that work in the cold and have very high density and can give you the range within the weight limits that you want, that's coming soon. That's coming soon. Um, so be prepared for that. And yeah, I would be prepared to, like, yeah, that the internal combustion sleds are going to bow down to the electric sleds, because man, oh man, if it's anything like vehicles, I mean, yeah, your Tesla is like dust in supercars. So it's going to be kind of interesting what happens to the industry in the next 10 years. Yeah, because the last 10 years has been incremental improvements, but there's going to be a shift here soon, with something new technology. Something's going to trickle down, and it's going to be another, I hate to use the word, game changer. It's going to be like definitely change the industry. So yeah, don't have too much to say. I think other than that, good release, lots of new stuff, lots of interesting additions, lots of neat option packages. Um, Pricing's getting a little crazy, but I think that's just across the board. And yeah, and I'm also very interested to see what happens to the used market next year. Like once COVID is kind of, once people are vaccinated and the whole COVID wave is hopefully in the rearview mirror. And yeah, just to see the used market and what's going to happen there, because the used market this year was just bonkers. So that's, I have my eye on that very closely. And yeah, be interesting to see how the sport shifts. Anyway, I'm hoping to do another video when Polaris releases their lineup, and if Cat and Yamaha have anything coming up like on theirs that might be interesting, I'll do a video on that too. Um, yeah, I'd love to see Yamaha build their own bloody chassis finally, and somebody like Polaris, Yamaha, whoever, guys, build a direct injected motor. You have the resources there, friggin' do it, because it's like crazy, um yeah, do it. It's just such a jump in engine run quality, and the big one, fuel mileage and power delivery. Like, it's crazy. Like an 800 CFI engine versus an 800 E-Tech, it's like not even close. I don't care which one's like got the most top end. The amount of gas and oil that the 800 E-Tech like burns compared to the CFI, it's not even close. The CFI just drinks gas and oil compared to the E-Tech, and the E-Tech pretty much runs with it. Yeah, and the run quality is so much better. So I hope these manufacturers like start making direct injected two strokes. It's like, it's about time. Everybody else is super late to the game. Like, get your crap together and come out with them. And yeah, I mean, what's more there to say? Anyway, this is a long video. It's going on half an hour. So yeah, good. It's good being back and checking out the lineup, and hopefully get more riding in. So everybody have a great night, and make sure you get your spring orders in.